The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
Trevor, relax, all right? Relax. You don't need melatonin, that much melatonin after a Canucks game, man. It's one game, dude. You got a fam.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
For a good night's sleep, I always recommend melatonin over melatonin. But anyways, welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Bains, co-host of Locked On Canucks and also a Canucks writer, currently with Daily Hive Vancouver, back on that post-game grind last night, baby. Before we dive into today's episode, we got to thank you for tuning in to Locked On Canucks, because it is your Canucks every damn day. We're part of that Locked On Podcast Network. They're doing the most for sports fans across the world. And for our show, if you haven't done so already, what are you waiting for? Make sure you go subscribe and like this on YouTube, and on the podcast side, go follow us and leave a 5-star review, because we're not here without you listening, and we're also not here without the sponsors. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Go download that Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. For those who use Gametime to get some tickets to the Canucks game last night, you weren't disappointed in terms of the entertainment value. It wasn't a boring game, but lo and behold, it did not go in the Canucks' favor. And Kyle, man, you had the emotional post-game episode yesterday. Go check that out if you haven't already.
Don't watch it. All over the place, full of shenanigans, was wrong about a couple things. Just so emotional, man. That was therapy 101. Therapy 101. 20 minutes after that episode aired, I was like, yo, it's all good. Shelovs is going to bounce back. Pettersson, 110 points, book it. All right, no problem. I needed that, though. Anyways, yeah, go check it out. Okay?
Yeah, maybe not on the YouTube side. I don't see Kyle stressing out, but on the podcast side, go give it a listen. But as we saw this morning, the Canucks are already making changes to the roster after one game. So, Kyle, I think that gives us a little license to overreact here. But let's get into the potential, the changes that we know may be happening to the roster, some other potential changes that should be made, and perhaps some other overreactions after a chaotic and disappointing Game 1 loss to the moribund bound Calgary Flames. All that and more coming up on today's episode of Locked On Canucks. But you heard his voice, Kyle Bowen, now that we're, a few hours past the Canucks dropping their home opener. How you feeling today, buddy?
Here's how I'm feeling, okay? Specifically speaking, okay? Why don't we talk about that, the specifics? I am so sad and upset that us as Canucks fans won't be able to look back at JT Miller's 800th game the way we should, because it's accompanied by a loss to the Calgary Flames, right? Presumably, possibly, one of the worst teams in the league, right? And again, more specifically speaking, I'm sad and upset that a lot of us aren't gonna hone in on that fifth goal that Miller scored, and how the building erupted, and how that was Game 1. And yeah, it was a roller coaster of a game, but if the Canucks squeaked that out in overtime, bro, I'm telling you, again, I'm changing my late night viewing experiences on my phone while I'm in bed. Okay, I'm just watching that highlight time in and time out, and just feeling good. But here I am after loss to the Calgary Flames, and it feels like none of that matters. And that's why I'm a little upset about what happened yesterday, because that truly was an experience. Like, the JT Miller experience yesterday was all over the place. It was bad and good, but it was ultimately really special. And yeah, again, I'm just sad that we can't really look at it that way.
Yeah, and JT Miller said it himself post-game when asked about the Gordie Howe hat trick he got, right? Goal, assist, and a fight last night. It's hard for it. He can't enjoy it on a night like this, because the loss, the disappointment of the loss just stings too much. And because of that, the Canucks are apparently already making changes to the roster. Okay. And we heard this alluded to after they set their 23-man roster earlier this week, with Arshdeep Bains being one of the final cuts, that they're not sure if they're going to stick with the same lineup on opening night or soon after that. And we learned this morning that, lo and behold, Arshdeep Bains has been recalled from Abbotsford to your Vancouver Canucks. I'm sure he's popping on the car and racing from good old Surrey to Abbotsford, to Abbotsford, to UBC today for the Canucks practice at noon. So, Kyle, were you surprised that the Canucks made a recall this early? And is Arshdeep Bains playing for the Canucks in Game 2 of the season already here?
Oh, I think he is. Rick Tocchet already talked about that a couple days ago. It feels like it's happening. I don't think they're bringing Arshdeep Bains up because of another injury or because they want some more competition during this practice. I feel as if there's a bit of a plan here for him to get a good look in this offense. And yeah, you just said it, right? Trevor Begg said it. I didn't, but Arshdeep Bains driving his Honda Civic from Surrey to Vancouver. Okay. Why the Honda Civic? Hey, me and Trevor from Surrey. And this is a big deal. Arshdeep Bains ready to save the Vancouver Canucks. And Trevor, I'm going to throw this to you because there's a chance, a small chance of this. And I don't even know if this is a Surrey bias, but I feel as if because, Danton Heinen and Daniel Sprong, they didn't blow my socks off, whatever that means, with their performances in the top 6 last night. I wonder if Arshdeep Bains, with his offensive ability, with, Connor Bedard saying he's one of the best passers in the WHL, with, again, Tocchet's fascination about his potential offensive ability in the NHL. I wonder if Bains gets a look with, either Pettersson or DeBrusque, or again with one of his line mates from last year, and that's JT Miller.
Yeah, I think there's a number of scenarios for Arshdeep Bains here in terms of where he might slot into the lineup. Look, there was a little bit of versatility in preseason in terms of which wing he was on, and they definitely prefer him at left wing. That's his natural position, but there was some experimentation at right wing a bit too. So that makes replacing Sprong a possibility. Dan and Heinen, I don't think had a bad game necessarily. He did look a little Pius Suter-esque in terms of not finishing on a couple of chances. And that's something that you think that Arshdeep Bains should be able to take care of, right? The guy showed some finishing ability in preseason. He's shown finishing ability really throughout his pro hockey career so far. This isn't a sexy take, though. I still think that the most likely scenario is that he just replaces Nozamon in the lineup and skates on a fourth line with Blueger and Short. I know, not a sexy take, and the reason you may be right is because there's an argument that the Canucks' fourth line was their best line last night. They certainly controlled possession better than the other 3 lines. But again, I think Nozamon, we saw it practice kind of leading up to the season. Him and Bains were kind of rotating in and out. So I think that's the easiest thing to do is just to swap Arshdeep Bains for Nozamon out. But Kyle, if that's not the case, if you keep that fourth line together, who are the Canucks taking out? Who are they scratching?
Bro, it might be Daniel Sprong, dude.
Which is crazy. Which is crazy to me.
But look at it's interesting to me, right? Because you want things to change. Now we're going to bring up the whole Pettersson thing too, right? You want things to change offensively. You want to play a more offensive game. You want to get Pettersson going. But there you are in, I would say late in the second period and ultimately in the third period too, just not playing Daniel Sprong. So now you have Pettersson alongside anyone and everyone, right? And I wonder how long they can play that card for. You know what I'm saying? It's like, who else in the league getting paid 11.6, your premier center? I know Pettersson has to be the driving force on that line, and his line mate shouldn't matter that much, but what other center is getting that type of treatment with the wingers around him? Because we already saw it last year with Kuzmenko. It happened like that, right? And it's not to say that Arshdeep Bains is a defensive savant. I mean, to be honest, at the NHL level, he's probably like 5 attribute points better than Daniel Sprong defensively, because Daniel Sprong is just supposedly, and you could kind of see it on the ice too, like he's just not in those spots for Tocchet. You know what I'm saying? And it pisses him off, and because it pisses him off, and it's so Kuzmenko-esque, there's Tocchet having to shorten up his bench very, very soon. And I wonder after one game if they think highly of Sprong and want to teach him a lesson, and they think that this could be the ultimate way to do so, where it's like, okay, you had one game where you were allowed to do that, where you looked bad defensively, where you weren't in the right spots, where you're trying to force a pass here and there in defensive zone. You had one game, you screwed up, go take a seat and watch how it's going to happen. So I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Daniel Sprong. And the whole Nils Amon thing, I'm sorry, man. Come on, Nils Amon. Come on, Amon. I'm turning into the biggest Nils Amon fan. Yo, I did not mind his game at all. He played big. He played strong. He played efficient. And like you said, him and Blueger and Sherwood, they did a little bit and a lot. It felt like that. Now, I could see a scenario where Pius Suter is like healthy enough to play again, and Amon's out for Suter, and they move like Ratu, or like there's just like a bit of movement going on. Like, who knows? But as far as Bains inserting himself into the lineup, something tells me that we might be surprised here, and someone else may be coming out. Now, I will contradict myself. I'm not going to lie. Now saying it out loud, Bain, Sherwood, and Bluger would be kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, it would be fun to watch. And, you look at the low men in terms of ice time last night. Atu Ratu, by far the lowest minutes, played 8:46. I didn't think he looked too bad out there, but certainly, he's a young guy. Didn't have the trust kind of late in the game as the Canucks were reeling a bit. Then it was Nils Amon playing 12:13. Daniel Sprong playing 13:07. So those are your three low forwards in terms of ice time. And yeah, to me, it's if Bains comes in, I think it's probably Amon coming out. Look, with the Daniel Sprong situation, I'm going to ask you this before we cut to break, and the listeners can chime in as well. Was there a play last night from Daniel Sprong where you went like, wow, what is that guy doing? Bench that guy right now, because he saw his minutes slashed. I don't know. There, like on one of the Flames goals, I think it was the Pospisil goal. He's kind of floating by the point,
Can't happen though.
Aside from that, I didn't think he was really all that bad last night. And in fact, I thought he had some good moments in terms of forechecking down low and forcing turnovers. But to me, it's, everyone's like, oh, Daniel Sprong's benched again. Here we go. Defensive liability. It's like, what instance of that was there last night, aside from maybe a bit of soft coverage in terms of one of the Flames goals that went in?
Well, that's the thing. I think like the leash on him is so short, and they're looking at recent history with him, right? Like that's been his career the whole way through. So it's not an unfair thing. It's just his ability to make errors in the defensive zone. And again, Tocchet just has no time for that, especially with the player that he's probably spent the most one-on-one time with during training camp. So it probably hurts him even more when Sprong isn't getting it. And there was another play in the defensive zone. It was kind of like Niels Höglander-esque from last year, where he just tried making a fancy play to get out of the zone. And this was like during, I'd say the third period or the second period, but it just allowed Calgary to still apply pressure. And this inability pretty much after the first period for this team to get the puck out was just ultimately detrimental, gave Calgary all the momentum. And yeah, just more specific on the Sprong thing. Tocchet, again, based on how much time on attack he spent with them one-on-one, I feel as if he takes those things personal when Sprong F's up so blatantly.
Yeah, Rick Tocchet. It's funny because you heard him in the post-game press conference say, I think I counted roughly 86 times. It's just one game. It's one game.
It is. It's one game.
But that being said, and you mentioned this to me kind of on the phone before we hopped on here, Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every day. He might have been a little bit too quick to go to the blender last night. I know things weren't really working out, but in the second period, but man, oh man, the Lions ended up in an absolute blender there, and it didn't really accomplish anything.
Bro, I hate that stuff, man. I hate it, man. You're treating this like a preseason game, bro. Yeah. Again, like his options, I wouldn't say they were slim, but coaches tend to do that when they're desperate. But I would have much rather seen him A, call a timeout, or B, just like go over to Pettersson and be like, yo, take over this game. Go for a skate. I'm not necessarily blaming Pettersson. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just saying I wish it was that sort of coaching method used instead of putting everything in a blender, because there's a hockey team on its heels, and now these line combinations are full of no chemistry and only hope that a spark will happen. And it's like, dude, that's not my thing, bro. I don't like that. Look at this comment from Jason McCoy. Sprong had a goal and an assist. He also got an assist too. On what goal? I don't know if did he get an assist. I'm blanking out here. But again, scores a beautiful goal on the power play. The flick of the wrist. A lot of players can't do that. Again, he could be some sort of a specialist. But again, I wonder if he's taken out of the lineup in game 2 just to send the ultimate message. Like, you know what, bro? I'm gonna embarrass you right now or make you learn your lesson. Sit. You got a goal. You did some fancy things, but it's not good enough. And maybe, just maybe, based on his speed and maybe his opportunity, Tocchet believes that there can be a player there. Like, look how he turned around Besser and Miller defensively speaking, Straight up. If Sprong just gets it and stops trying to cheat, bro, you're going to be in the lineup. You're going to get opportunity. But until then, in Tocchet's eyes, you're a liability.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm really curious to see where it goes to hear from Dennis Wrong. Again, as Rick Tocchet said, it's just one game. And this is just one podcast episode. Lots more to come, both on the network, but also on this episode. But we're going to pause for a quick break here. On the other side, get to some other potential lineup changes based on what we saw last night, what we're thinking, and also maybe a couple other overreactions from the first game of the season. The sky is falling. Or is it? We'll find out on the other side here on Locked On Canucks.
Oh, there's no ad.
Oh, I think I'm just lagging, bro. That's all. Anyways, I'll get to the ad read. The buttons aren't working for me. We got our friends over at FanDuel to shout out. Okay. All right. If you're placing bets on NFL, NHL, MLB, whatever it is, baby, you know you got to check out FanDuel, okay? They are the place to go to place some bets because they are America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place those bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Man, oh man, if you were betting on the Canucks last night, sorry, you should have bet on the over instead. But lots more bets you can make. For me, my Seattle Seahawks tonight, underdogs against the banged-up San Francisco 49ers. But I'm not going to lie, man, I'm not believing in my team. They get smoked by San Fran time and time again.
So dark, man. You got Trevor. I never understand, bro. You're a family man. You're a father, and you're just always full of pessimism, man. Can you just live with hope? And there's always a chance.
I've been burned too many times thinking that the Seattle Seahawks are finally going to beat the 49ers, and then they always just get smoked by them. So, I'm a realistic guy, man. I'm an optimist, but I'm a realist, okay? And I'll bring that optimism, that pessimism, that realism, that chaoticism. What? That's not even a word. It's all coming up on Locked On Canucks. If you want to, have some chaotic nature in terms of bet placing, again, make sure you go check out FanDuel. That's FanDuel.com.
Okay, we back doing this, and that's talking about your Vancouver Canucks. My name is Kyle Bowen. That right there is Trevor Beggs. Hey, one love to the Don't Doze Art Lab for giving us the space to, just give you the most material ever. Real talk. And I've been in this business for a long time, all right? 31 and a half years old, whatever business this is. And this is the easiest material to give to the people. All we got to do is watch, assume, talk, and maybe overreact. Because we're emotional, man. I keep telling people, man. Sometimes we get some nice messages, man. Oh, you guys are the best show. You guys deserve more credit. You got the best podcasters, all this. Y'all love you guys. Dude, we're not podcasters, man. We just fans. We just want a view. And we just keep it real. And again, that leads us to be a really emotional. And Trevor, am I one to get slapped right now? Across the face by you? Can you RKO me? I can already see Infamous. Okay, I've never met the dude, but he's about to hit me in the head with a steel chair. But I'll say this again, and I said it yesterday. Okay, if Forbort and Darnay, and I'm gonna throw Tyler Myers into the mix too, right? Because early on in regular seasons, you kind of have to iron out the negative traits in your game. Okay, and you need goaltending to kind of make you look better. And if the Canucks are going with Lankin and Shelovs and they have Darnay, Forbort, and Myers playing a lot of games, or a lot of minutes, they're going to have to outscore their problems. I don't see any way around it other than, again, getting a spectacular performance from Lankin and Shelovs.
Yeah, in terms of game one overreactions, I want to overreact for the fun of it, but I do think last night what we saw from Shelovs, I don't expect that kind of performance moving forward. He was bad last night, right? You could have argued him. Sure, the Canucks fell asleep a bit, but they also didn't really get a save. And I think there's some goals I hated the second goal. Was it the second? Yeah, the second goal, the Rasmus Anderson goal. Forbort caught in no man's line. He kind of he skates up to block Anderson's shot, then he kind of stops, and he's just screening Shelovs. He's not blocking the shot. He's not doing anything. He's just standing there, his big 6'4" frame, doing nothing. So that was a problem. The fifth goal of the game, Carson Soucy alone in front with two guys there. Tyler Myers maybe pinching a bit far away from the net. None of the forwards getting back. So there's just defensive breakdown. Again, it's game one of the season. You kind of expect defensive breakdowns. You maybe expect some uneven performances.
Mhm.
Again, we shout out FanDuel all the time, but I will say that betting on hockey in October is a very dangerous game because you just don't know what's going to happen early on in the season. But that being said, Kyle, to your point about Rick Tocchet and the philosophy, and he was blaming himself after the game, like most coaches do. I still think that the focus needs to be on offensive creation, right? I think you do got to lean into the team's strength, which is the forward group, which is the creativity. And if you score 5 goals, I mean, on most nights you are going to get the dub, right? Last night, unfortunately, just wasn't one of those nights for the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, because they needed a save and they couldn't get one. I mean, again, it's not that I specifically put a lot of blame on like Forbert, Darnay, Myers, even Susie, I guess you could say, didn't look perfect. But that's going to be the case. The Canucks are trying to teach a new philosophy that wants to be added on top of their staples, right? This is a defensive team. Now we want to play more offense because ultimately this team got eliminated from the playoffs because they couldn't take shots on net because they couldn't score goals. They were horrid offensively in the last like 20 games of the season and the playoffs. Okay. So bad. It was their Achilles heel. So they want to implement more of that. And they also want to do so while having all these new faces on their team. And again, replacing a good Ian Cole, who was bad in the playoffs, with Forbert and Nikita Zadorov with Darnay. And it adds, again, the inevitable that it's going to take a while for this team to play within their staples. It just is, because there's a lot of moving parts and, again, a change of pace that they want to play with. And until then, there's going to be moments where if they're not getting saves and they're not getting that like 9-15, 9-20 goaltending, again, they're going to have to outscore their problems, man. And I wonder if Tocchet kind of regrets what he said yesterday, okay? Straight up. I feel like it's too early to tell the people. And again, Tocchet's just such an emotional dude. He's such a hockey nerd. I feel like he's on a podcast episode every time he opens his mouth, straight up. But for him to kind of I wouldn't say contradict himself, but to apologize for the way he approached training camp and his desire to lean into the offense more being the detriment yesterday was, for me, you want to talk about an overreaction? That was an overreaction. It was too reactionary, okay? It's all good. Because at the end of the day, for the Canucks to take the next step, bro, they need to be more offensive. They need to lean into Pettersson and add that type of, and Miller and Hughes, and just add that type of realism to this team that we can do this too. Like, we can skate with the best of them, try to be that complete team, try to be that Florida with elite players around them. And you don't want to send this message that, oh, never mind, maybe we should just go back to the staples after one game against the Calgary Flames. Because at the end of the day, if they get a save from Shelovs, they win that game. 2 saves, they win that game. And they didn't get anything from Shelovs. Shelovs let in 6 goals on like 26 shots. Like, people want to cut this guy slack. Oh, like the defense wasn't good in front of Shelovs. It's not Shelovs' fault. Bro, this is the NHL. It's the NHL. You're allowing 6 goals in any game. It's kind of your fault. You're allowing 6 goals in like 20-something shots. Bro, you are the biggest reason why we lost that game. And it's okay. Those things happen in life, but that's just reality. And because of that, I feel as the Canucks don't have to change everything up, especially with the philosophy that they want to implement this season, okay? Like, you don't have to go back to your staples because of one game.
Yeah, I think the goal for sure that he wants back is the Mackenzie Weegar goal that tied the game, right? Like, there was very little traffic in front there. Long shot from distance. I think the Pospisil goal, the Anderson goal, there's some screening going on. Obviously, the breakaway goal for Mantha and the one in front that made it 5-4. So, like, again, Shelovs, this is the NHL, like you said, Kyle. You got to make a save at the end of the day. But in terms of the defense, and here's one of the lineup changes that I'm going to talk about, and maybe we'll end with a couple comments and overreactions, whether or not they're overreactions on the final segment. But you kind of alluded to it. Forbort and Desharnais, I think they're going to be a problem for this team. I don't think that's an overreaction. I think you mentioned yesterday in the post-game show, they're going to need some time to gel. Some time with Adam Foote, and that might, rectify their game, much like it worked for Juleson, Myers, Zadorov last season. But man, oh man, like, their inability to move both their bodies and the puck was a big problem last night. And they were on the ice for a couple goals against because of it.
Those guys are good along the boards, because they're so big and strong and ferocious. But other than that, and it was just one game. It was just one game, but you could definitely see why at times there were healthy scratches last year on good teams. And now they're on another good team, but they're like your fifth and sixth options. Canucks fans have to, again, I think people want to punch me in the face when I kept bringing it up. And again, it's only one game, but we have to sit with that reality. No, we have to. We have to. Whether they're playing 12 or 13 minutes a game or 15 or 16, it's going to be, I'm going to swear here, it's going to be a bit of a shit show when they're on the ice. Real talk.
Yeah, definitely. And hey, if any of you want to go listen back to this episode and play a drinking game, how about you take a drink every time we say it's only one game? We'll go back and listen to Tocchet's presser and drink every time he says it's only one game, because that's happened a lot over the past 12 to 24 hours here, Kyle. Let's wrap up the show on the other side with a couple comments, a couple other stories from last night's game, and we'll make the judgment on whether it's an overreaction or not. That's coming up to end up the show here on Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every day, after we shout out our friends over at Gametime. Man, oh man, Francesco Aquilini just absolutely raising the prices for Canucks tickets heading into the season. There was a story in the summer that tickets for the home opener, the cheapest one you could find was $244. That ended up dropping to around the 100-ish range for the cheapest ticket you could get. And when I'm talking about the cheapest tickets, I'm talking about finding those tickets on Gametime, baby. Because Gametime, they got that lowest price guarantee. That means if you find cheaper tickets elsewhere, they will credit you with 110% of the difference. Those generous mofos, man, let me tell you. And now they're stepping it up even further, okay? Because they got this new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets easier for your favorite live events. Gametime Picks, they filter out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets, all right? On Gametime, they got the Gametime Picks, baby. They got the seat views, so when you're on the app, you can see exactly what you would see on the ice or for whatever you're seeing. And, of course, the lowest price guarantee and that Gametime ticket coverage, baby. They got it all. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Go download that Gametime app, create that account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Game time.
Okay, we back doing this, and that's talking about your Vancouver Canucks. My name is Kyle Bowen. That right there is Trevor Beggs. Hey, I got to let you know that, I'm selling some t-shirts, man. Not associated with Locked On. I got to tell you that because they don't want to be responsible if it takes you 18 weeks to get your t-shirts, okay? Straight up. They don't want to be responsible, but hey, I'm selling t-shirts. Read the blog. I'm going to be updating the blog a lot. I think about the fact that I might be writing a piece a bit later tonight because the ideas are racing, specifically around Elias Pettersson. So go check that out. Link in the bio. But more notably, man, screw the t-shirts, man. Screw the t-shirts. Screw my new YouTube channel. Join the Discord, okay? The Discord. It's a fun place to be while you just want to talk about the Canucks while you're watching the game, okay? Straight up the game day thread. It's a fun time. It's a fun time. We got a lot of cool stoners and a lot of cool people overall, friendly people over there in the Discord. Join it ASAP. Trevor, I just brought his name up. We're talking about overreactions. I wonder what the comments are saying about this guy. But did you want more from Elias Pettersson yesterday? Because I did.
I did, but here's a catch-22. I think the vitriol that he got last night, from the fan base, whether it's in the Discord, whether it's online, whether it was, him going offside and him getting the Bronx cheer from the crowd, like there is a ton of pressure on this guy. I don't think he was that bad last night, but again, the bar is just so high with Elias Pettersson. You want him to be at that superstar level. And look, he drew some penalties. I think he made a nice play that led to Brock Besser's first power play goal of the night. Obviously, in the second period, you'd like to see him shoot the puck. He's just in love with his new best bud, Jake DeBrusk. Try to give him the goods there. But with Pettersson right now, I see him being involved physically. Like I see him caring out there. But there's just moments where like he got beat by Zari prior to the OT winner.
Oh,
I mean, it wasn't exactly on the goal itself, but again, there's just not that sharpness, that superstar level with his game right now, and I think it's pretty telling that to start overtime, Pettersson's not out there. It's JT Miller and Brock Besser. Like JT Miller is this team's number one center right now, so
By a long shot. By a long shot.
Yeah. So I would say, did Pettersson have a bad game? I would say that's an overreaction. Am I worried? A little bit, but I'm still, mostly optimistic about him and bouncing back and figuring it out. But again, there's going to be, which with every passing game that goes by, and it was the same to end the season last year, there's going to be concerns about him reaching that superstar level until he gets there again and goes on a nice stretch for probably a month or two.
Okay, Trevor. Again, you can shut me up if you want to shut me up, okay? Straight up. You can punch me in the face. You can literally leave me and this friendship if you think I'm being emotional, but I want to go off here, okay? And let's start off with this comment, okay? James Moore. One day, James Moore wrote a comment. He said, Google him. Google James Moore. I did. And I saw some crazy things, okay? How is this guy a fan of us? Anyway, so he's saying that he loves this quote from Jake DeBrusk, okay? Jake DeBrusk said this after the game. It was an injustice not to pull off this win for JT Miller. He gave it everything he had tonight, myself included, and we need to be more like him that way, okay? Again, DeBrusk putting some accountability on himself and wishing that he played a better game for Miller, who was just bringing it, right? Game one, people are paying $356 to go into the arena, right? Straight up, they're buying $18 hot dogs. JT Miller bringing it, trying to will this team to victory. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, dude, yeah, Pettersson played a little physical and he got in the face of Pospisil and boom, bam, great, cool. But if I'm Pettersson or a Pettersson critiquer, I'm looking at it and I'm like, yo, how are you not giving more? How are you not giving more knowing that JT Miller, that dude, that other special player is doing whatever it takes to get things going? You know what I'm saying? Offensively speaking, being a driver. How are you not driving? I know it's just game one, and necessarily speaking, we don't need you to drive now. We need you to drive in April, but specifically in that moment, it would have been nice to see him just take over. It would have. And I hate doing this because I was driving home yesterday and I felt like an asshole for doing this. And this might be the last time I say this, but 11.6, man. That matters. That matters. Miller's getting paid $3 million less than you. Money shouldn't talk here, but that will to drive this team to victory against the Calgary Flames, albeit, was just missing. And it was ironic because Miller was doing whatever it took. Now, it wasn't perfect for Miller. There's moments where he effed up. He caused the goal too. But it would have been fun to see, exciting to see. It would have been needed to see, especially for those in attendance, to see Pettersson attempting to do the most, try to do the most, instead of playing it safe to get things going for the Vancouver Canucks. And that was missing yesterday. You can talk about, I didn't think he played poorly. Dude, who cares? That bar is just so low. Pettersson, find a way to be more engaged. And honestly speaking, like, this may go back to Tocchet too, but he needs to start having more fun out there. And that's why I feel as if in the long run, it might be smart for Tocchet to just lean into the offense just a bit more, just to see if there that leash will allow Pettersson to be more fluid with his instincts, right? Because he is that guy. He's a cerebral guy. We don't need Pettersson standing up for Jake DeBrusk, okay? It's cool. We don't need Pettersson necessarily always finishing his checks. It's cool. It's great. It's an attribute to him, but the Canucks are going to only take it all the way when this guy's playing with his instincts, when he's fluid. And right now, he's far from that. Far from that. And it's weird how I did not see that after Miller was doing what he was doing. It was game one, big season. You just got handed this big contract. It was just weird not seeing him attempt to will this team to victory. You know what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying, but I also just think, and again, it makes sense. He's a superstar player. He's making a ton of money. I feel bad for these guys where everyone knows their contracts now. It wasn't like that 20, 30 years ago. But here's the thing, like JT Miller had an amazing game last night, but his lows were lower than Pettersson. Look, and Nuxie mentions it in the comments here. Love JT, but his passing is scary. He also goes on to mention that, JT Miller sitting on the Flames goal. This is his take. Created a vibe shift for the Flames in their favor. Look, JT Miller had some passes last night that were horrendous, but you forget about that because he laid on the body, he fought, he had a great setup on Besser's goal, an amazing goal to tie the game. So you forget about that, right? With Pettersson, he didn't have the same lows as JT Miller, but we don't have the same highs in terms of those holy shit moments, in terms of offensive creation, in terms of, like you said, trying to take over the game, win the game, in a late contest. And again, it's just a lot of bad voodoo carryover from last season, and it's going to remain until the guy goes on a hot streak here.
100%. And speaking of just that, 100%. Al Jim is about to drop the comment of the year, and this is going to set the tone for the Canucks, okay? Because this makes all the sense in the world. Straight up. Look at El Jim, okay? This is the same argument we made against JT when he was having a slump and Pettersson was on fire. A couple seasons ago, people were saying, JT doesn't back check. JT is so lazy. JT is full of turnovers. Look at Pettersson's work rate. Trade JT. JT needs to be more like Pettersson. You know what? I agree with that stuff. There was that type of rhetoric. It truly was there. But offensively speaking, I feel like there was always effort in JT's game. Like even when he was struggling, there was always like this ability within him, or like this instinct within him to try to make something happen. And right now, I'm not seeing that with Pettersson. Like, just even if you're forcing turnovers, or not forcing, even if you're giving the puck away, doing your thing. I know this sounds stupid, but I'm just wondering why Pettersson isn't attempting to do more offensively. Like, it's been a while, and I know yesterday was just game one, but that willingness to try to make something happen is missing from his game. And that's a little worrying for me, okay?
Yeah.
It just is.
Yeah, I'll probably end it on this. I think it is a game one overreaction, but he's still thinking too much on there, not playing with instincts. Like for him to pass up a prime chance in the slot and have his pass intercepted by DeBrus, that's playing thinking too much, not playing on instincts. But look, I see a guy who's engaged. I see a guy drawing penalties. I see a guy getting involved physically. I see a guy standing up for teammates. So there's good things there with Pettersson.
Bro, he's not Michael Backlund, bro. Thanks for drawing a penalty, buddy. Thanks for Jonathan Huber. Thanks for doing that. Like, Trevor, you brought up that forced pass that he was trying to make to DeBrus, bro. You look at that replay, like that pass was never going through. The pass was never going through. You want to talk about a player that's not playing with his instincts and overthinking? Look at that play. That was just not obviously not the right call, but it was also a play made by a player that. It just seems like he's not having fun out there, man. Speaking of not having fun, okay, look at Doug Garden, okay, leaving this comment. $18 hot dogs? What the F, man? It's an insult to the fans who support the entire league. I'm definitely joking about the $18 hot dogs. Like, I'm sure there's probably one $18 hot dog in the arena, like that comes with like bacon and cheese and guacamole and maybe some like, I don't know, dried garlic and I don't know, some peanut butter or something like that. You know what I'm saying? But I guarantee the hot dog's at least like $11 before tax. Yeah, why don't they do it? Like, Trevor, I brought this up. Like, we'll leave it on this note. Like, think about the fans, Aquilini. If you feed the fans at a low rate, if you give them drinks at a cheaper rate, they're going to be louder. They're going to be having more fun at the rink. You know what I'm saying? They're going to be happier, right? They're not going to be giving Pettersson the Bronx cheer when he goes offside or creates a turnover with like 4 minutes left in the third period of game one. You know what I'm saying? Like, look out for the fans and look out for the environment. Make Vancouver a hostile place by making things a lot cheaper. Straight up.
Exactly. And hey, look what Utah is doing. Apparently, Utah's got some of the cheapest prices in the league. And what do they have? Like a record for beer sales? I know a record is their first game, but I mean, like 6 figures in beer sales, man. So you make the beers cheap, you booze the fans up, and people get in a buying mood, man. So Aquilini, something to consider moving forward. Again, the heat is on Pettersson, but as Rick Tocchet said, it's just one game. And again, this is just one podcast episode, just a couple of idiots talking about your Vancouver Canucks. We'll continue to do so here on Locked On Canucks. So make sure you go subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts or on YouTube as well. But we got to get out of here. So shout out to the everydayers, occasional listeners, first-time listeners, new subscribers, and those of you who join us on the live show on YouTube. We love each and every one of you, your families, your dogs, your cats, and your pet snakes as well. Tomorrow, it'll be, I guess, another quasi-game preview. Looking at the Philadelphia Flyers, the Canucks nemesis from last season coming to town. But we got you covered on what the lineups look like for practice that's coming up in a few minutes here, and any other news and notes regarding your Vancouver Canucks or any crazy stories that Kyle and I want to talk about. Again, stay subscribed, stay happy, stay thirsty, and we'll see you next time here on Locked On Canucks.